President Joe Biden's proposed $5.8 trillion budget aims to provide more money for police, education, public health, and housing, while at the same time lowering the federal deficit. In order to help make the numbers add up, he intends to raise taxes on people earning more than $400,000 a year. He's also proposing a minimum 20% income tax for households worth more than $100 million.
For most Americans, the last few years were very hard, stretching them to the breaking point. But billionaires and large corporations got richer than ever. Right now, billionaires pay an average rate of 8% on their total income. 8%, that's the average they pay. Now, I'm a capitalist, but if you can make $1 billion, great. Just pay your fair share.
So our dynamic duo is back to give us their take. Edward Stewart, Professor Emeritus of Economics at Northeastern Illinois University, and Michael Miller, Associate Professor of Economics at DePaul University. Michael Miller, let's start with you, please. So we currently have inflation at a 40-year high. We are just barely emerging from this pandemic, and that's hopefully, and of course, there's this major war in Europe. How would you assess the state of the U.S. economy right now and the challenges it faces?
Well, it's a good, bad thing. Two bad things are we have inflation, and it's not just some inflation, it's a lot of inflation, but I'm hoping it's temporary. It will, in fact, be down dramatically by the end of the year. And that, of course, has weighed heavily on consumer confidence. But when you look at the labor market, it's as good of a labor market as we have essentially ever had. And GDP is growing near its potential, which means it can continue to grow for a long time without creating additional inflationary pressures. So I think the economy is in pretty good shape with the exception of that price problem.
So, Edward Stewart, we just heard President Biden's rationale for wanting to raise taxes on those earning more than $400,000, as well as households that are earning more than $100 million. How much additional revenue could that raise, and is it enough to sort of balance the books?
Probably not enough to balance the books, but enough to make a sizable dent. I think President Biden's budget forecasts reducing the deficit from 5% of GDP to about 3% of GDP, and that's a pretty good step in 1 year. So it's not going to cover the entire deficit, but you don't want to close the deficit too fast because we do have a growing economy. We have a pretty healthy labor market, and we don't want to choke off this economic recovery. We're still below, in terms of employment especially, we're still below where we were in February of 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. We have less jobs than we have then, and we have more of a population. So we need to still expand employment significantly in the coming years.
So the super wealthy, under the president's proposal, super wealthy would pay a minimum of 20% on their income. The corporate tax rate would rise to 28%. The top individual tax rate would go up to just under 40%. Michael Miller, as an economist, what does adjusting the tax system in that way, what does it do to the economy? What are the ups and downs of that?
You have to look at it from two perspectives. If you look at purely through the lens of the tax, does a tax have a stimulative or a contractionary effect? And there's no doubt that it has a contractionary effect. Work from all kinds of macroeconomists and advisors to Mr. Obama and so forth have concluded that. However, what the point of the tax increase is to fund Mr. Biden's spending program. He did promise this when he was running for president, and elections have consequences, and he is delivering on what it was he promised he would bring. And if I could say anything, I would be rather happy that, in fact, if he's going to spend more, he's not going to print the money to do so. He's going to raise the taxes necessary to pay for it. And if you're ever going to raise taxes, you do so when an economy is doing very well. You don't do it when the economy is in trouble.
So the budget is said to assume that the inflation, as you said, will return to normal from current 40-year highs. Ed Stewart, I think everybody cries when we go to get gas these days. Is it a reasonable assumption?
It's a pretty reasonable assumption, and I think one of the things that has to be clear is that this inflation that's being driven by supply-side issues like energy prices is a worldwide problem. You hear a lot of commentary that, President Biden has presided over the increase in energy costs or increase in inflation. Everywhere has inflation. I was talking to the producers before this. I just came back from Portugal early this month. People in Portugal are paying about $9 a gallon for gasoline. Austria and Germany announced today that they may be instituting a national program of rationing for natural gas. So it's a worldwide problem. Eventually, energy prices will stabilize and probably come down, but it may be 6 months to a year before that happens. I'm still worried that the Fed is going to be tightening too much and will choke off demand, and demand is not the main reason why prices are going up. We have to end the war in Ukraine. We have to get better energy efficiency, that's one of the things in the budget of President Biden that is one of the key spending components is to increase energy efficiency and to invest in infrastructure, which will have long-term productivity benefits for the economy and bring down the long-term inflation rate. Short-term inflation, I'm afraid I don't have any good news, and it's everywhere. It's not just in the United States.
So the deficit for fiscal year 2023 would be $1.15 trillion. The U.S. national debt in February had already surpassed $30 trillion. So it's hard for us to get our head around numbers that large. But Michael Miller, presumably the U.S. can't run deficits like this just forever.
Well, based upon the forecast that I saw in the presentation of the budget, there are going to be deficits of over $1 trillion for the next 10 years. But understand as well that the economy is growing. So in nominal terms, if you compare the size of the deficit to the size of the economy, it's not changing dramatically. It's about 4.5% of GDP is going to be in the form of the deficit. We also see that according to the projection from the president himself, the national debt will rise to just under $40 trillion. Now, that will be a little bit higher percentage of GDP than we have right now, but not dramatically higher. Okay. So in some sense, the people who are not, I prefer a smaller government with enumerated powers.
And Mike Miller,
but if I'm going to have it large, then doing it such that you pay for it now makes much more sense.
All right, that's where we'll have to leave it. My thanks again to Michael Miller and Ed Stewart for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Brandis.
You got it.